African Affairs analyst Nixon Katambo joins us now via Skype for some insights into the man who was chosen to lead the country following that 1993 to 2005 civil war that killed 300,000 people. Nkurunziza and incumbent President-elect General Evariste Ndayishimiye fought alongside each other as rebels in the conflict. We'd like to hear now from Nixon Katembo about what the ups and downs of Nkurunziza's reign were. Already Human Rights Watch has lambasted him, calling him a dictator. Thanks so much indeed for joining us. Nixon?
Thanks for having me, Peter.
All right, so some people might call this a complex story, and I can't help but think about Robert Mugabe when I think about Pierre Nkurunziza, where at the beginning so much love was showered upon him, and towards the end, not everybody was on the same page.
I think it would be a wrong analogy to compare Pierre Nkurunziza with Robert Mugabe, Peter, simply because these are two different men in their own time and in their own history, and their politics differ from each other when you look at the trajectory that both countries, Zimbabwe and Burundi, has gone through. However, for the sake of this interview, I think we will go back to the history of Burundi, looking back at how the war actually started in the year 1993 after the death of Melchior Ndadaye and the subsequent election of Cyprien Ntaryamira, who also died together with Habyarimana at the airport in Kanombe, in Kigali, triggering the Rwandan genocide in 1994. So it's that trajectory that formed Nkurunziza's politics within the region. And I mentioned this just to highlight the politics in Burundi goes along with the politics in the Greater Lakes regions, especially if you want to look at the history of both Rwanda and Burundi and the ethnic tensions that have happened in the country, as you would have heard earlier in your piece there, where the president having been born from a Tutsi mother and a Hutu father, and who was subsequently killed. But coming to the Nkurunziza's ascent to power, you would have noticed that Nkurunziza came to power after much negotiations between warring parties in Burundi. And this is because there has been a long history of war. You recall that the president who succeeded after the death of Cyprien Ntaryamira also faced the challenges were toppled by the former president Pierre Buyoya, and eventually the former president of Tanzania, may his soul rest in peace, Mwalimu Julius Kambarage Nyerere, leading the negotiations on warring parties in Burundi, and subsequently the negotiation being handed over in 1999 to former president, the late Nelson Mandela, here in South Africa, and eventually South Africa getting involved much in the negotiations in Burundi up until the constitutional framework was set up. However, I need to mention 4 key points that dictate or highlight Burundi's politics and Nkurunziza's coming to power and implementing actually these 4 key points within the Arusha Peace and Reconciliation Agreement, which has come to be known as the Arusha Accord. One was the power sharing deal on ethnic quotas and ethnic policies. The other one was the representation of all parties in the state bureaucracy. And the third one was the constitutional restraint or any political party in Burundi to amass so much of power that it can bulldoze any other political parties to remain in power. And lastly, was to integrate all former rebel group or militia which participated in a war in Burundi. If you look at how all these points were agreed upon in the Arusha Peace and Reconciliation Agreement, which was signed on August 28th in 2000, Nkurunziza would be credited for actually actualizing this peace accord. You'd recall that he was nominated as the interior minister before parliament actually voted him as the actual president. And much is not said about this, that he was elected within the National Assembly. However, when the constitutional framework came into existence in 2005, he kind of took the first term as a president, notwithstanding the fact that he was first elected as a president in the National Assembly. And it is upon this basis that actually he said, no, I have now my first term as a president who was elected on universal suffrage, and now on the second term, I'm seeking a second term, which is now another term of a universal suffrage. Now, this is where the confusion comes, where you earlier mentioned about mixed legacy of the man himself. And much is not said about this in a constitutional arrangement about Burundi. One other aspect that I would mention, Peter, is that if you look at the framework of the constitution in Burundi and the demographic composition of Burundi, now where in a constitution where 40% of representation is reserved on a minority that actually form 16% of the population, and then 60% is reserved on a majority that is represent 84% of the population. This is, if you quantify it in terms of a demographic of the Burundi, you talk about Hutu and Tutsis. Tutsis being the minority and the Hutu being the minority. And looking back at the history of wars and, those military coup d'etat and military exchange, rebel groups, it's always, if you look at the Burundian army, is always domination by the Tutsi minority within that army. And hence, you would see that in 2015, those who led the coup, which was initiated by Hussein Rajab and is eventually led by Major General Niyombare Godfroy, they fled to Rwanda, which is more accommodative for another Tutsi minority leading to Hutu majority in that country. So it is those imbalances that are not often talked about when you discuss the issues of politics of Burundi and by a greater extent the Greater Lakes region, and more specifically Rwanda as well.
All right, so yeah, I think we will use the word complex legacy because as you've very well described, actually, it was a very complex time that he negotiated himself through. And I just wonder, now that you have Ndayishimiye, someone that he fought alongside, is this a new chapter for Burundi, or is it going to be much the same with the legacy of his brother-in-arms perhaps being carried through by this president-elect?
One of the problem in politics, Peter, is that you wouldn't predict what the next president is going to follow. He might choose a path of reconciliation in as much as his predecessor have done so in trying to reconcile the people of Burundi. But you'd recall that this is a country that faces numerous threats. You have the Red Tabara rebels, which is next door in the Democratic Republic of Congo. You have the other groups like your other groups, rebel groups, which are also based in the DRC. You have former coup leaders who are in Rwanda currently. So you have other situations where Burundi has been facing attacks. So those are the kind of policies that are going to dictate the foreign policy of the current president, but also looking at the national interest of the country. And whether he's going to change that, it remains to be seen. But it is worth mentioning that Burundi has been peaceful during this time of Pierre Nkurunziza, and one would hope that Evariste Ndayishimiye, the president-elect, is going to continue with that legacy. But I see already problems there, because if you look at the congratulatory message that have come in, the United States through the State Department have congratulated Evariste Ndayishimiye. The AU have congratulated and Ndayishimiye. The East African presidents, including Uhuru Kenyatta and Yoweri Kaguta Museveni of Uganda and Tanzania, who have congratulated. But the immediate neighbor, which is Rwanda, they send sort of what they call a diplomatic note. And now, if you understand the language of international relations, and sending a diplomatic note is like, we don't hold you in high esteem. You know, when you want to protest against a particular interest of your country to another country, you send what they call a diplomatic protest note. Now, if you send a diplomatic note, it's like, okay, we know that you exist, but in a way we don't recognize sort of why your existence. And I think that was going to dictate how things transpire in Burundi, and how Evariste Ndayishimiye is going to conduct his own politics within Burundi and outside Burundi, because Burundi is a member of the East African Community, and Burundi is a member of the CEPGL, which is the Community of the Great Lakes region, and that is going to dictate how he runs the country, bearing in mind all these other rebel groups that are lingering in Eastern DRC, wanting to enter into the country. You recall that there were several attacks leading to these elections, and assassinations that have happened under Pierre Nkurunziza, the late president, actually of a mysterious nature. We have a former BBC journalist who was one of your colleagues at the BBC when you still presenting Focus on Africa, Peter Hafsa Mosi, you would recall her. She was assassinated in Bujumbura, and this kind of assassination is still happening, and all point to rebel insurrections that have been happening, trying to destabilize the peace in Burundi.
All right. Nixon, always a pleasure talking to you and getting your wealth of knowledge about the region and its politics, and particularly this evening